How's it going, everyone? We have the brand new Discraft Swarm. This is in the Tour Series plastic for Andrew Presnell, but it's the first look that we really have at the Swarm. The Swarm's an overstable mid-range from Discraft. Kind of fits in their lineup where it's a little bit more overstable than the Buzz OS. In my limited experience with it, I think it has a little more glide than the Buzz OS, but we're gonna throw it a bunch today, kind of show you where it fits in that lineup, and get you pumped about the brand new Swarm. These are already live over at foundationdisc.com, and I would imagine the stock Swarm that's not in the Z Flex Jawbreaker plastic should be coming relatively soon, but let's go ahead and give it a throw. I'm gonna try to just throw it relatively flat out there so you can just see the true flight of it. Yep, just very overstable. So let's crank this on some anhyzer, because I think that's where you can kind of see that's what weeds out the fraud overstability from the true overstability. So we're gonna crank this on some Annie, and I'm gonna really lay into this one. Yeah, as you can tell, that thing kind of laughs at anhyzer. It flexes enough that it's not like just snaps out of it. Like it held it for a second, but like I threw that hard, low, and on a considerable amount of anhyzer, and it didn't even think about like panning or cut rolling or anything like that. Like it just fought all the way back out. So now let's get a few forehands in and maybe like one or two more shots so you can see different versatility of this disc, but it's pretty straightforward. All right, so now we're gonna rip it on a forehand here. I don't have the best mid-range forehand, especially when I try to power up. So we're gonna try to make all conditions point to a bad forehand to see how this reacts to that. Because we've seen how it reacts to good throws. Both of those have been pretty solid. So if you were just throwing a good forehand and you have a clean release, it's gonna be really overstable. But let's try really getting into them, which typically for me leads to a little off-axis torque, leads to a little wobble, and see how it responds to that. I mean, I threw a hyzer, but it was really overstable. Let me throw one more shot where I'm gonna just really get into it backhand to make sure there's not some type of power threshold where like you can expose it. I don't expect it to, but before I give you my like closing thoughts, let me like really get into a backhand, but I think I have a pretty good understanding of this disc. Trevor made a good point, so I'm actually gonna throw a shot and then go pick it up and come back and then throw another one, which the first shot I'm gonna throw is see if it's like the Zone OS, where if you power down and like throw a more like approachy type shot, if that reduces the stability, like if this is a disc that wants to be thrown hard, I'm gonna throw an anhyzer backhand and try to just get to that goal, which that goal is about 150 feet away, I'd say. Yeah. Somewhere in there. So I'm gonna try to throw like an anhyzer backhand, fan grip, kind of touchy, and see like, does that cause it to change flight, or is it just like overstable all the way through? Yeah, so I mean that flew probably closer to like a stock zone, I would say. Like it still fought out of it, but it basically flew the same there as when you really power up on it, which can be confusing because typically when you really power up on something, it makes it less stable, but it almost acts more stable the harder you throw it because it's just that overstable, but it just doesn't get more stable the slower you throw it, if that makes sense. But I'm gonna go grab it, bring it back here, and then try to crush it as hard as I can and see if we can get it to hold turn. All right, so our goal with this last shot is going to be to break the Swarm. I'm gonna throw it as hard as I can on as much Annie as I can and just see what it does. Ooh. All right, got it to hold. Doesn't really change my opinion on it, but I did it, I beat the Swarm. All right, so what is the Swarm and who is it good for? I think the better way to describe the Swarm, I've heard it described as a faster Zone OS. I don't think that's quite true. I don't think it's as ridiculously overstable as the Zone OS. I think it more fits the bill of a slower Captain's Raptor. So it is plenty overstable. You're gonna be able to throw all your typical golf shots with it. It's going to take you trying to get it to hold anhyzer for it to hold anhyzer, but it's very usably overstable. So the Zone OS, you have to like, it's like a trick shot disc, the Zone OS is. It's crazy, it's gonna land on like knifing hyzer angles. This disc is definitely a step back from that. I would say it's probably most comparable to like a Pyro from MVP or Axiom, I forget which one that is. I've seen some Justices that fly like this. I wouldn't say it's as overstable as like the Deflector or like the A1. So I think that's kind of where this maybe MX1 is probably another good comparison there. It's just really nice, overstable, and the difference between it and the Buzz OS, because I think they're kind of the two competitors within the same lineup, is this seems to have a more pushing fade. So the Buzz OS, when it dies, it tends to just like drop. This will actually carry you left a lot more in the fade, in my opinion. It's definitely more overstable than the Zone, or the Drone and the Zone. I think it's definitely more overstable in general in the Buzz OS because of the way it finishes. And all in all, it's a great disc, very comfortable in the hand, great low profile beadless hand, beadless rim there for comfortable backhands, forehands. So if that seems like you want the slot you want it to fit, you want something faster and slightly more overstable than your Zone, that just is more the gap you want to fill, the Swarm could be the disc for you. You can check out this run right now over at foundationdisc.com, or if you're watching this video way in the future, the stock ones should have come out by then. You can also find those at foundationdisc.com. And appreciate y'all tuning in. Comment down below what disc you want to see us review next, and we'll see you then.